So let's begin with the book of John, chapter 14, verse 1. And it reads, Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Elohim. Believe also in me. There are other translations of this, not very, very different, but I want to see something. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in Elohim, believe also in me. Right? So, um, by saying this, right, he's revealing his um what the normal religion would call divinity, in the sense of how high he is spiritually. For he says, if you believe in the Most High, if you believe in Elohim, then believe also in me. Right? That's how close they are, as we see in Psalm 110, right? When David prophesying says, Yahweh said to my sovereign, sit at my right hand. And that was a prophecy of Yahushua, the Messiah, going up and sitting at the right hand of the Father. So let your let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Elohim, believe also in me. Believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. So that's a powerful, powerful statement, showing once again that he is the Son of the Most High and the only true and living mighty one. Believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. So remember also that before this verse, Yahushua had revealed to Peter that he was going to deny him 3 times. So right after that, Yahushua tells him, let not your heart be troubled. So um obviously that was at the moment, uh, referring to him and what he was feeling at the moment, but it is also a message for all of us. For if we do believe in the Most High, therefore we should believe in the one he sent, his Son, the Messiah. And if we do believe in the Son, then we have the favor, we have the forgiveness of sins. So our heart should not be troubled. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many staying places. And if not, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. So this is a verse that one can see in a very simple way, right? As a representation of how the marriages would be um fixed back in the day, and the way things would go, like in the sense that the father and the son would go to the house of the father of the bride, right? To, well, pretty much to make a, a sort of deal and see what the father of the bride would ask for the hand of his daughter. So then the price would be paid for her, and there would be a a half of the pact done, in the sense that they were engaged. And in this, and also, like, engagement back in the day was a lot, and mainly I'm talking about the Hebrew culture. It was more and more of a compromise than the way it is seen nowadays. It was pretty much like being married already, just not together. So he would give uh what it was asked for the hand of the bride, and then he would go to back to his home with the father, that of the groom, right? And they would build now a house, or get a place for the um, new couple, right? So when the place would be ready, then the groom would go back and pretty much uh, take the woman um, as a thief in the night. So this right here is a representation of the groom telling the bride, "I'm gonna come back for you. I'm just gonna go to my father's house and prepare a place because there's enough space there for us." Right? So that represents Mashiach explaining why he came and then he had to go back to heaven, but making reference to the fact that the father, would pretty much send for the bride in after a while, so that the bride could come to her new house with her new husband, right after the wedding of the Lamb, as we see in Revelation 19. So, in my father's house are many staying places, and if not, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. In my father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Um, now, so that was the pretty much uh one of the interpretations of that verse in a sort of simple way. Um, but we can also see other things that could be telling us more. Like one of those, for instance, is I go to prepare a place for you, right? And when we go to Revelation chapter 12, we see, and a great sign was seen in the heavens, a woman clad with the sun. Remember that in the when it comes to this sign manifesting in the firmament with the stars and the constellations, that pretty much happened on 2017, right? So this is that would have been a sign that of things that were coming, right? As we approach the very end. So and a great sign was seen in the heavens: a woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor, in pain to give birth. So that has to do with the end times, as Yahushua said that the end times will be like a woman who's about to give birth, right? Um, so, and another sign was seen in the heavens, and see a great fiery red dragon, and then it continues. Then there's a fight. Then he mentions the last, who is resurrected and receives authority to kick Satan out of uh, heaven, out of the second heaven where the angels are. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. So then it continues. And here, when the dragon tries to destroy the woman, meaning the congregation, the chosen few, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, to the witness like Moshe. And the woman was given two wings of a great eagle. That is the transformation. And I'm not talking about literal eagle wings. I mean, it would be amazing if something like that happens, right? And whatever Yahweh wants. But this has to do with something spiritual, because that this term of getting great eagle's wings is mentioned also in the first Exodus. So this is like, in a way, this is just telling us this is the second Exodus, right? Because those are the same terms that were used during the first Exodus, and we don't see Israel flying, right? We don't see Israel getting actual wings. So we need to understand that those terms are used in the first Exodus. So this is referring to the second Exodus, and also to the transformation. Yet the transformation doesn't necessarily, I mean, we don't necessarily need wings to fly. I mean, Yahweh can do whatever he wants, and he can like make us levitate, right? For instance. So I'm just saying, so that we don't get the wrong image, or at least not the one I'm trying to talk about. Then he says to fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the presence of the serpent. So to her place, and well, so look at this in verse 6. Then the woman fled into the wilderness where she has prepared, a place prepared by Elohim that they should feed her there 1,260 days. A prepared place. Here, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there 1,260 days. Right? So here in John, we see Yahushua saying, in my father's house are many staying places. And if not, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place. So this is also referring to the fact that Mashiach was going to prepare the place where the chosen few will be during the 1,260 days, where they will be nourished, spiritually speaking, right? So, one of the interpretations, I repeat, then is here is saying that he would go to get that place ready for the chosen few, the prepared place of Revelation 12. Here, this translation says, in my father's house, we read something like that. In my father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. So let me see. This, uh, would I have told you that I go, or I would have told you if I go dwellings, right? So another interpretation, and they are not exclusive, right? They are pretty much all happening. Um, The first one, that the Messiah as the groom came to pay the price with his blood for the bride, which is the congregation. Then he went away to prepare a place for the chosen few to be during the end times. And then he will come back and get them, the bride, to that place that he prepared for her. And um, during the transformation, the chosen few will receive new bodies, right? And Mashiach said that the chosen would be like the Malachim, right? Like the angels. And remember that in the book of Hanok, the angels, when they came down to this earth, they had to take different bodies in order to be able to have sex with the women. So when they got the bodies to be able to enter this reality, which has a different physicality, they left their spiritual bodies, and I'm using quotes in the sense that they are not uh, from the third heaven, because then there will be no physicality at all. But angels have a body, and that body is made of a different type of matter, if we could say, like, for instance, what they call dark matter, what they are trying to find with CERN, which would be a door to the spiritual. So we could say that we're made with matter and they are made with dark matter, but they are invisible to us because of the reality in which we are of regular matter. And therefore, since they are invisible, they represent the true reality that is truly invisible, even to that invisible reality for us, right? Um, so when the angels came down, when they rebelled against Yahweh, they had to leave their bodies up there, and reality there goes a lot slower than here. For here, 1,000 years go by, and there just one day passed. So um, they left those bodies, and also there's a difference between this reality and that reality. Well, just with that I just said is pretty much the same, but things don't decay like they do in this reality. So um, when we read about the fact that the angels left their mansions, their houses, their habitations, depending on the translation. So I was saying, well, here we have Jude, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, this translation, but left their own abode. Oh, abode is the word that I will be talking about in this case. The proper domain was heaven, but left their own abode. That would be their body, right? Yet it is mentioned as a house because remember that, for instance, the temple of Yahweh made of stone was a house. In Hebrew, the word for the temple was, well, one of the titles for it is Beit Hamikdash, meaning the house of uh, the tabernacle, or well, or the set apart place, the house of the set apart place, or the set apart one, right? Yahweh. So the temple, even though we have an idea when we use the word temple of religious uh, building, temple and house is pretty much the same. So it happens that the temple is the house of a certain mighty one, right? A certain, they would say, God. So um, then Mashiach came and he said, "Destroy the temple, and I will raise it up in 3 days." So he explained that the true temple is the human body. So the house for the person in this reality represents the body for the soul, and that's why the scripture also speaks about um, right now we are in tents. These bodies are like tents. Um, but then we will receive buildings. So imagine the difference, like I always say, and I know there are better, much better. Well, I don't know, I don't want to use an old building, but imagine the newest, most beautiful building created nowadays compared to a tent to go camping, right? There's no comparison when it comes to space, luxury, and a bunch of other things. So the difference between this body and the next body is like that, is that huge. So bodies are represented by houses, and um, like I was saying here, Jude 1:6. Let me see something just to see what word is being used here. And the angels, their first state, but left their own habitation. Their own habitation. It says, oikaterion, a dwelling place, habitation. And you see how it says, of the body as a dwelling place for the spirit. So it's talking about they left their bodies in heaven, but those bodies were the dwelling places, the houses, the mansions for their spirits. So just like when you go into the sea, you need a suit, right, to be able to be there, and well, you need a tank to be able to uh, hang around underwater for a long time. And even so, that's just something that you put over your regular body, right? But my point is that you need to adapt yourself to this other world in which you are immersing yourself. So, oikaterion is in this case. Now, we were in John 4. Okay. So, mansions, and I go up to prepare a place. In this case, we get uh, monet, a stain, abiding, dwelling, abode. You see how it says of the Ruach HaKodesh indwelling believers. So it's pretty much the same idea. It also uh, is talking of bodies in which we will um, be when the transformation happens. And like I was saying, abode, right, which is the other word they use in the other in the other verse. And here. Topos. All right. Inhabited place. So, uh-huh. As I was saying, in my father's houses are many staying places. And if not, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. So is not only preparing a place for the chosen few to be during the 1,260 days of Revelation 12, um, but also is referring to the new bodies that are already in heaven, awaiting those that will enter the kingdom of heaven. Then, verse 3, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I shall come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you might be too. Right? So that is just like I was saying, like the groom speaking to the bride, right? Telling her, I'm going to go prepare a place. Once it's done, I will receive you to myself. I shall come again, right? So that's why Yahweh would come first and then last, as first and last. First to sow the seed, and then to harvest the fruits. But there will be a time in between sowing and harvesting. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I shall come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you might be too. And where I go, you know, and the way, you know. All right. So, and where I go, you know, and the way, you know. Thomas said to him, Sovereign, we do not know where you are going, and how are we able to know the way? Right? Because he was asked where he was going, what he was talking about. They couldn't follow him. But then Yahushua told him, I'm going to go and prepare a place, and I will come back for you guys, and I will bring him, I will bring you back to me, and we'll be there forever. Right? So, then Yahushua says that they know because they already know, they just don't understand what he's talking about. And where I go, you know. They actually knew that he was going to the Father, to the Most High, but they didn't understand what that was. And the way, you know, they already knew the way Mashiach taught and lived. So they knew the way to the Father. And where I go, you know, and the way, you know. This is interesting because it is pretty much like this: believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. Where I'm going, you know, Yahweh. And the way, you know, me, right? The believe in Yahweh and the believe in Mashiach. Those are the place we're going and the way to go there. And remember, when I say place, although it may sound weird, in Hebrew, hamakom, the place, is the term used for Yahweh as omnipresent, right? As the fact that he's everywhere. So everything is within him. So he is the place in which everything exists. And where I go, you know, and the way, you know. Thomas said to him, Sovereign, we do not know where you are going, and how are we able to know the way? Yahushua said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. One of the most important verses ever, right? So powerful. So Yahushua said to him, I am the way. He mentions three things, just like he would be 3 days in Sheol, just like Yahweh is he who was, who is, and who will be. Yahweh the first and last, Yahweh El Shaddai, etc. So Yahushua said to him, I am the way. So believing in him, acting like him, that's the way to the Father. and the truth. That's amazing. The truth, the true way to live, the true way to be in every sense, the truth about the Torah, the truth, and that's it, the truth. Everything that has to be and has to do with truth, that is Mashiach. And that's why he's also the light. And in a way, that's why he didn't mention it here, because it's pretty much the same, right? But light is more in the like more concrete, while truth is more abstract, right? Well, truth, as we say it in English, but for instance, in Hebrew, let me, okay, in Hebrew we got emet, right? And just here you can see the first and the last letter of the alphabet, meaning Yahweh as first and last, coming as anointed, as Mashiach, the letter Mem, right? So first and last as Mashiach ben Yahuda, Mashiach ben Yahusef, to reveal the truth. Also, um, here we see the first, that is Yahushua HaMashiach, the first coming as the water of life, being the anointed one, right? Mashiach, who would finish the job on the cross. So in the word emet, truth, we can see the work of Mashiach, the Most High coming as the first Mashiach, the water of life, to die on the cross. Remember that the Tav is a cross originally in the pictographic, right? Look at this. Look at the only letter that we gotta add would be a Vav, and we turn truth, emet, into I will die. So the truth is, right, Yahushua saying, I will die for you. But remember that the letter Vav, what does it represent? A nail. So how would he die? By being nailed to the cross. So the first coming as Mashiach, to be nailed to the cross. All right. So that, when it comes to the word emet, but that was not really what I wanted to show. But that was cool though. Uh, not that. Let me see. So that's the numerical value. And remember that Hebrew is concrete. So we know truth as an abstract in English, but emet comes from firmness, reliability. Well, that's again sureness, stability, faithfulness, firmness, stability, perpetuity, and it comes from aman, which is to support, right? So we understand support also as something that things need to be able to stand, right? Um, a support is something that when you're building, you need to be able to hold everything together. You need supports depending on what you're holding, right? So Yahushua is the truth. He is the support. That's why he's the cornerstone. He's the base. He's the foundation. He is the seed. He's the beginning. He's the first. And everything is being held by him, by his power. That's why he made everything and then he fixed everything. And I'm saying, well, in the middle, what happened was free will given to men, right? But thankfully, he paid for our sins. So, um, So I just wanted to mention that regarding the Hebrew being concrete and therefore understanding better how truth would be understood, right? And as I was saying, truth, um, just like light, light reveals. So the truth is, well, it's just the base of everything, is the only thing that exists, right? Because everything else would be a lie, therefore an illusion, vanity, something that is just like a cloud that will disappear, etc., as scripture says. Um, but truth will always stand. So saying I am the truth, that is huge, amazingly important. Remember that Pilate even asked Mashiach, "What is truth?" Right? People, um, in general, don't really understand truth, and mostly nowadays in this generation, for now they say, "What is your truth?" All right, my truth is this and that. No, there's one truth, and there may be opinions, perspectives, uh, etc., but there's just one truth. And sometimes none of the two that had to do with whatever know the actual truth, which is very sad. But yeah, and one of the reasons is because depending on the reality that we have built through our experience in our own mind, because everybody is uh, a world of their own, right? Every head is a different world. Um, that is gonna affect also the way you see things, how you react and interpret what you are seeing and what you are hearing. So two people can see the same event, the same thing happen, and see two different things, um, and interpret two very different things. And the more people we add, like more opinions and more different um, realities colliding. Um, and well, I kind of spoke about this, I think, or maybe I only did with a few when I was in Texas. um there was a video that I had seen, and then it popped up again when I was there, and it made me think deep about this. um it was from a TV show, and I had seen this in like in other ways, but then they used it in the TV show. And there was a school teacher, like university, something like that, and he was telling everybody, "All right, you're gonna hear this. This sound is from some people celebrating a game, and they say this and that, right? So everybody hears it, and okay, that's cool. What's up?" So then he says, "All right, now you're gonna hear this." So he writes on the screen um some words, right? So right when you read those words, then you hear the same audio, and all of a sudden you hear that which you are reading. You hear something else completely different than what you just heard. And then he did that like five different times with different things. And every time you hear it, it just sounds like you're hearing that thing that you just read. So um, that is a very simple experiment in which you can see that, well, one thing is that the mind will listen more to the eyes than to the ears. um and whatever you expect, that's what you will experience. So when the eyes would read and therefore expect to hear certain words, when those words would come through sound through the ear, the brain would interpret what you actually read and you expect it, not what you actually heard. So the ears can be deceived very, very easily. And not only that, like I was saying, that shows that everybody's experiencing a different reality according to what they expect, because that's what the brain will use to then create reality for that specific person. And that is very tricky. Um, so also that shows something very interesting, that's why people say seeing is believing. Yet the scripture tells us that when it comes to the spiritual world, it is different. We don't walk by sight, we walk by faith. And faith comes by hearing, right? And hearing the word of Yahweh, which is Yahushua. So it is through the ears, through hearing, through the doctrine, through listening to the scriptures and to the spirit, um, that we receive and grow in faith. So, going back to this, he says, and the truth. So that means everything. And the life. Once again, similar to light, right? Because when you're born, you open your eyes and you see the light. Um, Light and electricity is pretty much very one, right? And and just like um, well, my point is like light or electricity is the life of things that work with it. Um, so there's a very clear connection between light and energy, right? And the energy for things to work, move, and everything. So um, Yahushua is the light, and I continue to say that because even though it's not mentioned here, um, yeah, we know that he says it in other parts, but we see it in a way here through truth and the word life. Now, the fact that he says, I am the life, and you didn't know me before he manifested, right? I'm not saying that he said that there, but they didn't know Mashiach, even though he was there. He had to say who he was, right? So my point is that before Mashiach, life had not been revealed, and still to this day, because of what the enemy does to many, Mashiach hasn't been revealed to them. So that means that not many have actually lived, because they have not met the life. They only had uh, an illusion of life, a representation of life, which is the life in this reality, in this world, which was made for representations, was made for making images of something that is real. But the image in itself is not real, because if it were, it wouldn't stop being, it wouldn't pass like time passes. Therefore, time isn't actually real or truth, right? Or, well, true. The truth is Mashiach, and that's why Mashiach is the life eternal. Yet this reality has death, which is a lie. And there is also the connection between truth and life, and lies and death, right? Falsehood and death. And that's why Mashiach is the truth, and the false Messiah is the lie. Yahushua is the life, yet the false Messiah is death. Now, the fact that he says, I am the way, I think is very important when we actually think about it, because, well, as you guys know, that's the name of our congregation, the Way of Yahweh. That is for a reason, because we preach about Yahushua. But my point here is that many people claim that Yahushua is exactly the same exact thing as Yahweh, the same thing. and and as I would say, he is the manifestation of Yahweh in the flesh. So he is an extension of Yahweh within this reality. Just like Yahweh himself says, I am the first and I am the last. But while the first and the last manifest, there is a uh, well hierarchy, right? In this case, Yahweh, then Yahushua, then the last, and then Eliyahu, then the few and martyrs, and then the many, and then the nations. But um, my point is that they say that it's exact that the Father and the Son are exactly the same, not understanding that separation which Yahushua himself reveals by saying the Father is greater than I, right? And by saying this, he says, I am the way. He doesn't say, I am the destiny. He is the way to the Father. He's the door so that we can enter this new reality. So he deserves praise completely. But we need to understand so that we give honor to the Father as we must, not only to the Son, because the Son came to show who the Father is. So how can we forget about the Father, right? If the point of the Son is show the Father. So I am the way. Also, it is important to understand that when you go walking, we read last week, right? You're gonna get your feet dirty, so you need to uh, clean yourself, which is pretty much to clean the doctrine, the teaching that we've received through walking in life through uh, the way of spirituality, right? But also, I think it's important to understand. Remember that many people believe in the rapture and they just expect to be taken, and many people believe that they cannot lose salvation. Many people believe that sin doesn't exist anymore. So there are many beliefs that lead people to just wait for the rapture, just wait till death, and just sit there, spiritually speaking, and not do a thing and enjoy this life pretty much in the world while claiming not to be because they're just not part of a certain part of the world. So they just pointed that part of the world as the world and don't see their own, right? And they expect to stay there and wait for the kingdom. So they don't actually walk the way, for he says, I am the way. Now we need to walk it. And that's why also we see that the chosen few are the ones who follow Mashiach wherever he goes. They follow, they continue walking. So we cannot stop in our quest for the kingdom. We need to continue till we reach the kingdom. We need to persevere till the end. And those who persevere till the end will be saved. So um also when we walk and walk and walk, there will be times in which we will get tired. And that's when the enemy will like most of the time in that specific moment is when he will attack, right? Because we will be more vulnerable. So we need to remember that when we are feeling attacked, when we are feeling like we cannot deal with it anymore, that we are just done with it, that is too much, etc. We gotta slow down and ask the Father for His mercy and for strength in Mashiach, for understanding, if possible, of whatever is going on, and just take a breathe and continue. So I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So no one can teach anything that goes against Yahushua as the Messiah, because if so, they are of a different spirit and are trying to lead astray away from Yahweh, from the truth, from the kingdom, from eternal life. So no one comes to the Father except through me. So this is key, right? For that shows also that He is the door. And remember that in John 10, which is same book, Yahushua said, I am the door and the good shepherd. The good shepherd goes through the door, but the thief comes a different way. So by saying no one comes to the Father except through me, that gives us an important um an important tip pretty much to know and to understand so that we don't fall prey to the spirit of the Antichrist. Because if anybody appears and doesn't accept or doesn't confess Yahushua as the Messiah, the door, the way, then that person, whether he or she is preaching of someone else or about themselves, that person is being led by the spirit of the Antichrist. And I say that because the Antichrist himself will say that he is everything, that he did everything, and that there's no need to believe in no one else, right? Remember that the Antichrist, I also call him many times the false Messiah, because that is the point of the word Antichrist. He will be placed instead of the Christ, meaning he will try and take the place of Messiah. And obviously he won't use the the words and the actions of the true Messiah. He will act according to the way that the world has been expecting the Christ, according to the idols and their vocabulary, so on and so forth, so that more people fall for it. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father too. From now on you know him and have seen. All right, so another important verse. Now he's talking to the disciples, so he's being nice, right? I would have liked like him. Well, he said certain things like this, but not everything because he didn't reveal that much to the Pharisees. But I would love to see the Pharisees hearing these words that he's been saying about being the truth, the way. And now this: if you had known me, you would have known my Father too. So, interestingly enough, he's talking in the past tense. And I mentioned the Pharisees because it was the Pharisees who didn't recognize Yahushua as the Messiah. But he's talking to the disciples and he's saying this. So Yahushua is telling the disciples, not even you understand really what is going on. Even though you accept me as the Messiah, you don't understand what Messiah means, what the true Messiah would have to do. They had a different idea of the Messiah, and they still do. And I mean, Jews. So if you had known me, you would have known my Father too. This is very important when it comes to other books that we've read, and well, in Spanish at least so far, showing that, and well, and sadly, a verse that, or an idea that many not understanding the Gnostic books uh, used to mislead people. Like for instance, there are many people who claim that the mighty one of the old covenant is Satan, and the mighty one of the new covenant, as they would say, is Jesus, right? But Yahushua came to fulfill the law of his Father. He came from the Father. He is the way to the Father. So if the Father that is revealed in the old covenant was Satan, then that would make Yahushua something very bad, right? So they make a mess of the scripture, sadly, by not reading it, but deciding to read other books instead. Well, we should read the scriptures and understand the scriptures enough, at least, so that we can see other things, as scripture itself says. Read all things, right? Take what's good and um, reject all that is not. So, um, Yahushua is revealing that the one that everyone was praising and worshiping as the Most High was not actually the Most High. They thought they knew the Most High, but if they had known the Most High, they would have known his son, the Messiah. Yet the fact that they rejected the Messiah in that way shows that they had no idea about who the true mighty one is. And if that's so, then they didn't have any idea about the fulfillment of commandments and everything else. And that's why he said in John 4 that the hour is coming when the true worshipers would worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth, because before that they had not. So, if you had known me, you would have known my Father too. From now on, not before that, but from now on, you know him and have seen. I love this part. Philip said to him, Sovereign, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Right. So Yahushua is just telling them, like now that you know me, you know the Father. You've seen the Father, right? But they are still thinking about seeing to believe instead of hearing and receiving the faith to understand. So Philip said to him, Sovereign, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Something else that I was mentioning. Remember how in the beginning I said about Psalm 110, Yahweh said to my sovereign, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies as your footstool. So that is Yahweh referring to the time when he would come as David, interestingly enough, meaning the king, to bring Satan down to the earth, which is Yahweh's footstool, right? And the heavens are his throne. So heaven and earth, uh, throne and footstool. So sit at my right hand, sit in heaven, while I put your enemies as your footstool, send Satan to earth. So um we have that image from the beginning, and now um let me see the fact that let me see, well, if you had known me, you would have known my Father too. So like I said, he's talking in the past. If you had known me, so now in in this time is when the Father will manifest again, for he said, I am the first and I am the last. The first came as the Son, the last comes as the Father, because the Son gives testimony of the Father, and the Father gives testimony of the Son. So that's why the Father said to the Son, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies as your footstool, because it's the Father who comes to put his enemies as his footstool. So, understanding that now, we can see how in the end times, right now, when the last manifests as the Father, he's not going to be recognized. Why? Because they don't recognize Yahushua. Because his image, his doctrine, and everything else was changed so much that people don't really know him. They know an idol, they know an idea that was created by the enemy. So if you had known me, you would have known my Father too. Just like they didn't recognize Mashiach, they won't recognize the last. From now on, you know him and have seen. So you see how he separates himself from the Father. Philip said to him, Sovereign, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Yahushua said to him, Have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? Like telling him, you still don't understand anything. You've been with me, and you don't understand that I'm the manifestation of the Father. He who has seen me has seen the Father. He who has seen me has seen the Father. And how do you say, show us the Father? The Father is invisible. So by seeing the works of Yahushua, they were actually seeing the Father at work. By seeing his love, the truth that came out of his mouth, everything about him. Now, also remember that it is said, even in Judaism, that Yitzhak was pretty much exactly the same as Abraham. The exact same. Like he got nothing from Sarah. It was just all Abraham, right? So um I find that very interesting because it is a teaching in Judaism. And I always say, right, for many reasons, the main one that Yahweh asked Abraham to take Yitzhak to be sacrificed. So that is a representation of Yahweh the Father sending his son to be sacrificed. So Yitzhak represents Yahushua, right? That's why Abraham said Yahweh will provide for him, will provide a lamb for himself, referring to his own son, the Messiah, Yahushua. So I find it interesting that they in Judaism say that Yitzhak was the same image of the father Abraham, since Yahushua, the Messiah, is the image of Yahweh. If you have seen the Son, you have seen the Father. Also, remember that in Genesis, well, let me actually see it. Here we have Elohim creating everything. And it says, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So first it says image and then it says likeness. Yahushua is the image of the Father, the last is the likeness. That's why when John sees him, the last says he is like the Son of Man. So the image and the likeness, first and last. So since Yahweh created everything in 6 days so that we would understand that human history would last 6,000 years, we know that man was created in image and likeness until the sixth day. So it is until the sixth millennium, which is what we are approaching during the harvest, that we will receive both as intended. Since by that time, the first and the last will have manifested already. Tselem and the Mut, likeness. Now, okay, so Salem is pretty much a shadow as well. Here it says image, likeness, empty image, semblance. Some translate it also as um, a, well, the mold that they used for making the body, like so as a um, image, but not necessarily. Well, you could see, I mentioned shadow, even though it doesn't appear here, but um, like, you see. So look how it's written. Shadow, you see, cell. So if we add the mem, we have selem, right? So a shadow figure, but also um, the mold used for the body, as if you would press matter towards it, and then you would get the image. That's pretty much how in Judaism also some explain the making of the body. But now look how this is the tzadeh, which represents the righteous one. Yahushua is called the righteous one, um, who came with the authority of the Father to give us authority, to give us the teaching as the Messiah. Um, so the righteous who went up as Mashiach, the righteous one who gave the teaching um, of salvation, the water of life. Also, remember that the Lamed is the numerical value 30. So the righteous one at 30 became Mashiach. All right. The image. Now, if we see this one, we had seen a word that was very similar to this, remember? You see um, how pretty much ends the same. Mut, mut. I will write it down here so that the vowel points don't affect it. Still, we may not get the actual translation. Oh, you see image. But that's actually likeness, right? Figure. Now, if I separate this as death, mavet, or mot, a dead body. And this is a dalet, right? Yahushua is the door. That is a door. So the last will become the likeness by going through the door as he dies. by dying for Mashiach, going through the door as Mashiach when he was nailed to the cross. Also, going through the door as the Mashiach ben Yosef on the sixth millennium as the Son of Man to seal the chosen few of the end. All right. So it's interesting how likeness is so connected to death as well, right? Because most, like 99.99999% of humans would have to die in order to be able to enter that other reality. And I say that, right, because the chosen few won't have to experience death. So I'll continue. He who has seen me has seen the Father. And how do you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? As I was saying, everything that exists within the Father. And now that we have Yahushua within us through his Spirit, the Father is in us as well. So we are in him and he is in us. And then through Mashiach, we become one. So do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father who stays in me does his works. That's important again because he's showing that just by the Father manifesting in a lower reality in that body, there was a soul created. Well, that soul is actually Mashiach when he entered that body made with the flesh of Miriam. But he's showing how the Father is above, how the Father is greater, how he does everything by the will of the Father and the power of the Father. The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father who stays in me does his work. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me. Otherwise, believe me because of the works themselves. So there are two types of belief. One is greater than the other one. Or like we see in Romans 14, there are some who have a strong faith, those have others have weak faith. So those who have a weak faith, they want to see signs in order to believe. But those who have a greater or stronger faith can believe by just the words, by the teaching, by the truth spoken. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me. Otherwise, believe me because of the works themselves. Truly, truly, I say to you, to the to those with strong faith and those with weak faith, I say to you, bless you, brother. He who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also. And greater works than these he shall do, because I go to my Father. All right, that is huge, a huge statement, and we will hold him to it, right? Because we believe, and therefore we expect and obviously hope in the sense of that he want to use us and everything else that may come with that. But many, right, when they read this, they expect, like, I don't know, like, since Mashiach walked on water, they want to walk on water and then just dance on water and run on water, since he said greater things, right? Yeah, play basketball on water. Yeah, without the ball getting wet. Yeah, because that's very bad. So, um, they want to do things like, in a sense, um, not really for the good of others, but to show off, right? And many may not think it that way, but it's kind of the end what it is. It's like I want to have power, right? Like I want to be able to show them exactly. So that should not be the intention. That should not be the point. Yahushua was not doing it for that. So that's not what he's talking about, right? The works that he did, including walking on water, I mean, they were to show his power, the fact that he can control matter, that nature obeys him, even though nature was trying to flip the boat where he was when he was asleep. So that shows certain other things that I won't get into right now. But um, my point is that he was showing the power of the Father within him. But we could say that better than walking on water, even though that must been amazing to see that and then walk on water like Peter did. But really, when he raised Eleazar, right? When Lazarus, when he gave sight to the blind, that was huge because not only he was doing once again something not seen before, he was healing somebody. He was giving a new life to somebody. He was giving hope to somebody and a bunch of other things, right? So that's greater. Okay. And now he's saying you will do greater works. So what can be greater than receiving sight? For instance, he gave physical sight to the blind. Now, nowadays, people are blind, but spiritually. And even obviously, there are people who are blind uh, of their physical eyes, but there are very few in comparison to how many people are blind spiritually. And even if you were to give sight to a blind person, that sight that he may receive could sadly lead him to sin. And then, for instance, that person choosing what he saw and preferring what he saw instead of what Yahweh wants for him, then that person could walk straight to punishment, to hell for receiving sight, right? Which would not be so good after all. However, receiving spiritual sight will lead the person straight to the Father through Yahushua as the way. So that's greater, right? Being able to hear the Spirit is greater than being able to hear sounds in this reality. So there are greater things, but those greater things to the flesh are nothing. To society, stupid, doesn't exist. So we need to understand that. And obviously, I'm open for Yahweh to use me and all of us in other ways not ever thought before, or even walking on water if we need to go and save somebody. And like, if you don't know how to swim, then just walk, right? But but you know what I mean, like things like that, like speaking in tongues, if actually there's no way that you can speak about the Messiah to someone that actually needs to hear it at that moment, all those things, yeah, that would be wonderful. But we need to understand that sometimes the greater works are invisible, just like Yahweh is invisible, and most people won't notice it. They won't realize what Yahweh is doing there, right? So they won't say, "Oh, that's great. You did such an amazing work, a miracle." They won't say that. Many won't say that. Remember that many didn't even believe that Mashiach did what he did. Many of the miracles that he did, that he performed, some people wouldn't believe them. So he says, "In greater works than these he shall do, because I go to my Father." Now, the fact that he says, I go to my Father," he's also showing and telling us, so you're going to receive the double portion, because not is not only the Father up there helping you guys and working in your favor, but now I will be there as well. So it's two of us against the world, right? And those two who created everything. And greater works than these he shall do because I go to my Father. And whatever you ask in my name, how important. So we should ask ourselves first, what is his name? And then the world will say Jesus. But then we read scriptures and it says, don't believe the world. Get out of the world. The God of this world, that's Satan. And then the world continues to say Jesus and God, the world. So the God of the world starts to be suspicious, right? And then you investigate and you realize that the the name Jesus didn't really exist until very close to our time. And it was a name that got changed many times as they were trying to hide the true name of the Messiah because of the power in it. And because the enemy obviously would try to hide it in order to make people be his food. Because remember that the serpent was given a curse of having to eat dust. So man turns to dust. So the accuser, Satan, tries to destroy humanity in order for him to continue. So, when whatever you ask in my name, that I shall do, in order that the Father might be esteemed in the Son. So, when a person asks in the name of Yahushua and Yahushua makes it happen, then the person gives honor and exalts the Father, which is what the Son wants. And whatever you ask in my name, that I shall do. I shall do. So we need to know the name, and that is Yahushua, in order that the Father might be esteemed in the Son. If you ask whatever in my name, so he says it twice. That's how important it is. So we should be careful about it, right? And obviously, like when you know about it already, it's like duh, of course, right? But we were years reading and praying and praising the wrong names, right? So there are a lot of people who are in the same boat, and we need to understand and put ourselves in their shoes, right? And understand how they see everything, not to go straight and tell them how it is because they might not understand it at first and take it real bad. But there's a reason why his name is mentioned so many times, and he says, my name, my name, my name. If you ask whatever in my name, I shall do it. If you love me, you shall guard my commands. If you love me, you shall guard my commands. And I shall ask the Father, and he shall give you another helper to stay with you forever. Now, this is another powerful verse and has, as everything, several interpretations, levels of interpretation. Now, the most common or understood by everyone already is the spirit of truth, right? The Ruach HaKodesh. He would send the Ruach to be with us at all times, to teach us, remind us everything, reminds us of everything that Yahushua did and said. So, that is one interpretation, completely true. However, there's another thing here. Um, he shall give you another is like he shall add. I actually would like to see how this appears in Hebrew. Well, I know we don't have the original Hebrew, but we have a couple that we could use to have an idea. Well, and actually, the two ways in which it can be written, both are prophetical, as we will see maybe in both of the versions that we will use. Um, and we are in verse 16. This one is not very good, really, but I just want to see anyways. Acher, acher. Um, so other, right? And as you know, this word acher, other, If we add these two letters, becomes last. So he will give you the last. He will give you another one, another manifestation in the end, right? Now, another way of writing it um, would be he will add a helper. Will add a helper, right? And in this case, remember that that's Joseph. The last comes from the tribe of Joseph. So both ways of seeing it, he will add a helper or he will give you another helper. Both reference the same manifestation of the last descending from Joseph. Well, let me check here. These are the Hebrew version. It says, "Ve'ani ish al min ha'av v'natan lachem et Menachem." That's another point that I want to mention. Menachem Acher. All right, so the same Acher, which is the root of Acharon, the last. Now, but okay, so um, if we go to the translator here, it says Menachem. So that's the name given to the spirit here and to the last. Now remember that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noah, right? Here we have the name Noah. Let me just take this away. You see, Noah. So the coming of the Son of Man would be like Noah. So we have that name in Menachem, plus he will add another, that is Joseph, and Aharon last. Um, the first mem, that is the mem of Mashiach. Like Yahushua came, then Noah can come to become the last Mashiach, the last mem, which is closed, because that's when the world will be completed. That's why this mem, as you can see, has a little hole at the bottom, just like the net that they were using when Yahushua called the disciples, that it broke and some fish came out. But when Yahushua was resurrected and he represents the last, he calls them, they get a bunch of fish once again, but the net doesn't break. So they take them all out, representing the mem closed up. So Menachem, the one that brings comfort, that brings rest in the end times, as Noah did during the flood. All right. So, and I shall ask the Father, and he shall give you another helper. Menachem Acher. So if it's this is also important. If it's another helper, who's the first helper, right? Well, that would be Yahushua. So he's saying Yahweh will give you another one like me, and that will be his brother, the prodigal son, the last, right? He will give you another helper, just like I came to help. He will give you another helper in the end. Hope that's understood. To stay with you forever. Now that's also key. And that's why remember, Yahushua told the disciples, "You will see me, but the world will not see me anymore." So the disciples will be able to go to the place that he will prepare, as he said in the beginning of the chapter. The chosen few will be able to go there, but the other people that Yahweh will allow to enter life eternal, they won't be able to enter the place of the Most High. They won't be able to enter higher realities than this one of matter. So, just like I mentioned, there will be levels. There will be some who will be able to go to the Father and to this earth, and there are some who won't be able to go up to heaven. So some will see the image, others will see the likeness, right? And pretty much like the few will see the image, the many will see the likeness. Like in the temple, there was a veil in between the most set apart place and the set apart place. So if you were the high priest and the chosen few are the body of Mashiach, who is the high priest according to the order of Melchizedek, if you were the high priest, then you would be able to see the veil from the inside, right? Or, um, in a way, see yourself on the Ark of the Covenant. But those who were in the set apart place, like the priest who were not the high priest, they could only see the other side of the veil and perhaps a little bit of their own face in the altar of incense, but in a dimmer way than within with the ark. But and that's just a way of seeing it, not that they actually were seeing like in a mirror, but because of the material used, I is what I mean. So my point is that the the few will see themselves in Yahushua HaMashiach. The many will see themselves in the last Mashiach ben Yosef. Just like some would see part of the veil, the other one would see the other part of the veil. So to stay with you forever, like saying that's the one that the world will see. Then he says the spirit of truth. Remember that the Ruach HaKodesh can be separated in two parts: the spirit of truth and the spirit of prophecy. Okay. Now, Yahushua said, I am the truth in this chapter, right? So now by saying the spirit of truth, he's saying my spirit. He's going to give his own spirit through his death and resurrection so that others can connect with him and know the truth, right? That is the main point. But since he's saying another helper and everything that I already said, Menachem, Noach, etc., that is the last coming with the spirit of Mashiach, therefore the spirit of truth within him. But the last comes with a double portion, for he is descendant of Joseph, who got the double portion, and the son of Ephraim, who represents the double portion. So the last comes with the spirit of truth through Mashiach, and from the Father he received the spirit of prophecy. That, well, all the 144,000 have it, just in case, right? Because the spirit of truth is the belief and confession of his name, Yahushua, as Savior and Sovereign. And the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Mashiach, the fact that he died and resurrected for our sins and why he did it and how he did it, right? So, the spirit of truth and the spirit of prophecy within the last. That's what is also represented by um, the dove and the uh, well, the turtle dove, because they were two, right? Two types of birds that were very similar, very very similar, but um, they are mentioned. Let me see. Uh, okay. Well, this is not the one I was looking for, but um, the voice of the turtle, right? It's not talking about the one with the shell. It's talking about like a type of dove. Kol Hator. There's a book. I do recommend it. It's Jewish, so be careful. But it's called Kol Hator, and it is a compound of many prophecies referring to the coming of Mashiach ben Yosef. So Kol Hator is seen as the voice of the turtle. Now look at it here. I want to show you something interesting. Kol Hator. You see, it's not translated correctly, but you can see there that it is what it is. Where did it go? Okay, so here's the call. So it is N voice of the Tor is heard in our land. So the voice, remember that Yahushua is the word, the last is the voice. So it's interesting that that book and these words, Kol Hator, reference the coming of the last, the spirit of the last, the spirit of prophecy that will prophesy about Mashiach being the Messiah. Well, Yahushua. Hator, this is the article, and then this is the animal. And you see how it is the tav, the vav, and the resh. So the last that comes as a man to be head, to be the head, and also to start the end. Um, there are other things that could be seen here as a seal for man on the head, right? That is the name of the Father and the Son, the seal of the living mighty one. But uh, also, let's take this word right here. I mean, this letter. If we take this letter and put it at the end, we got called Torah, the voice of Torah. And that references again the spirit of Yahweh speaking through the instruction, the Torah, the 5 books of Moshe, right? So we see the relation between Kol HaTor and now Kol Torah. Now, it is from these 2 words, the voice of Torah, Kol Torah, that we get the word culture, cultura in Spanish. So true culture being actually uh, cultivated intellectually comes through knowing Torah. That's true culture. All right. So going back. And I shall ask the Father, and he shall give you another Menachem to stay with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world is unable to receive. Right? Why? He's about to say it, but like I already mentioned, this is a world of lies. This is a world of falsehood. The world itself is a lie, is an illusion, right? That's why movies like Matrix and all of that. And not only the system is an illusion, physicality is an illusion. Everything that we see will disappear. That which we do not see is what will remain. So the spirit of truth, whom the world is unable to receive, because it does not see him or know him, right? Because he is invisible, and this world is a world of images. That's why he had to take flesh and become the image of the Father. But he is that which is behind the image, the truth. The spirit of the truth, whom the world is unable to receive. It cannot receive it because it is completely the opposite. Because it does not see him or know him. The world, and not just people from the world, this reality and even angels do not see him and they don't know him. Only those who came from him can know him and therefore accept and recognize Mashiach. But you know him, for he stays with you and shall be in you. I shall not leave you orphans. I am coming to you. Now look at this. Yahushua always spoke as the son. He always spoke as the brother. He came to make us friends, etc., etc. But now, when he is about to go through death and he starts speaking about going away and then about the end and sending another and coming to get his people, then he talks as a father. So now he's talking as if he is the father in the end times, for he already manifested and fulfilled what he had to do as the son 2,000 years ago. So I shall not leave you orphans. A father is the one who would leave orphans. A brother doesn't leave orphan his brother, right? His sibling, if he leaves the house. So I shall not leave you orphans. I am coming to you. So he says that because he's talking about coming back. But the coming back of the Most High to this earth would be as the Father. That's why the chosen few will not be left as orphans, because now he's coming as the Father. Yet a little while, and the world no longer sees me, but you shall see me, because I live, and you shall live. Yet a little while, and the world no longer sees me, right? Because he was about to be killed, and then he would disappear for 2,000 years after resurrecting and staying a few days and then going to the Father. Yet a little while, and the world no longer sees me, but you shall see me, because I live, and you shall live. In that day, when you shall live, in that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. So remember how he said, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. But now, through our belief in Mashiach, he says, you in me, and I in you. So the same function that the Father has within Mashiach, Mashiach fulfills within us, within those who believe in him. In that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who possesses my commands, he who possesses my commands and guards them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I shall love him and manifest myself to him. Very important. I repeat, he who possesses my commands and guards them, like for instance, loving the Most High with all your heart, all your mind, and all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. It is he who loves me, and he who loves me shall be loved by my Father. So when a person loves the truth, when a person loves um, the true life, that is, when a person loves um, love and loving and helping others, then Yahweh will love that person. And then Yahweh will reveal the Messiah to that person so that that person can receive life eternal through belief in Mashiach. And he who loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I shall love him and manifest myself to him. Yahudah, not the one from Keriot, said to him, Sovereign, what has come about that you are about to manifest yourself to us and not to the world? Like, so he doesn't get what Mashiach just said. You will see me, but the world won't. Sovereign, what has come about that you are about to manifest yourself to us and not to the world? Now, this, I repeat, has several meanings. One of them, how not everybody will be able to see Yahushua in eternity, even though they may enter that reality, they won't be able to enter the highest reality. Um, Also refers to how the last would come to the earth as a thief in the night, so only the few would recognize him as the sheep listen to the voice of the good shepherd, while the others don't understand, won't see it, instead will think he's wicked, evil, because he's a thief. So, what has come about that you are about to manifest yourself to us, and not to the world? Yahushua answered him, If anyone loves me, he shall guard my word. Now, my word, not only everything that he said, which is should be obvious, should be clear, but also his name, because remember that his name is the word of Yahweh. Revelation 19:13. The name of the Messiah is the word of Yahweh. So, if anyone loves me, he shall guard my word. Why would you have to guard his words, like the scriptures, and his name? Because the world would change it, would get rid of it. So we need to guard it. We need to take care of it. Like when he said, when you pray, pray this way. Set apart be thy name. Oh, um, Heavenly Father, set apart be thy name. So if anyone loves me, he shall guard my word, and my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him. And my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him, both, the double portion, and make our stay with him. He who does not love me does not guard my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but of the Father who sent me. And the word which you hear is not mine, but of the Father who sent me. So once again, we see how Mashiach gives the honor to the Father and gives the credit to the Most High, to the Father, about everything that he did and everything that he said. And the word which you hear is not mine, but of the Father who sent me. These words, and okay, now this is interesting as well, because not only that I just mentioned, but remember that he just said, I will not leave you orphans. And now he says, and the word which you hear is not mine, but of the Father. So it's actually the Father telling them, I will not leave you orphans, referring to his coming to the earth as the last. And the word which you hear is not mine, but of the Father who sent me. These words I have spoken to you while still with you. But the Helper, Menachem, the set apart Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, whom the Father, and remember, just in case, right, because of what I have said so far, remember what Isaiah 11 says. And a rod shall come forth from the stump of Yeshai, and a sprout from his roots shall be fruitful. Yahushua revealed that he is the root of David. Yeshai is the father of David. So the root is Mashiach, the sprout is the last, the rod. The spirit of Yahweh shall rest upon him. The spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yahweh. So those are the seven spirits of Yahweh, which are all within the one spirit of Yahweh, the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So the Ruach not only manifests to each believer, to teach that believer, to lead that believer, to help, etc., but also would manifest in the flesh, just like it did 2,000 years ago. So going back, but the helper, but Menachem, the set apart spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, whom the Father shall send in my name. Remember that Yahushua said, I come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. John 5:43. But when another one comes in his own name, him you shall receive. The world would receive the false Messiah who has his own name and does not give honor to the Father. Yahushua is the true Messiah who, through his works, his words, and even his name, gives honor to the Father because he comes in the name of the Father. All right? Now, the last is sent by Yahushua himself. But Yahushua was sent by the Father, so the Father sends the last through Yahushua. As we see in Revelation 22 at the very end, verse 16, it says, I, Yahushua, have sent my messenger to witness to these matters in the assembly. So he's one of the witnesses, his messenger, Mikael. I am the root and the offspring of David, meaning the rod, the sprout, right? So I have sent my messenger, now going back to John 14, whom the Father shall send in my name. So the last comes sent by Mashiach, but coming from the Father, and to teach of the name of the Son and of the Father, just like Mashiach revealed the name of the Father. Now, I said that first because of what I was saying before, but look how this shows clearly. And it's interesting that it's verse 26, right? The numerical value of the name Yahweh. that to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart spirit, to help us, the helper, to help us understand the scriptures, the only way is that we pray to Yahweh in the name of the Son. When we confess the name of Mashiach, Yahushua, it is the covenant, and spiritually is like the password to receive access to the Spirit. But the Helper, the set apart Spirit, whom the Father shall send in my name, he shall teach you all and remind you of all that I said to you. He shall teach you all. Remember that Yahushua brought wisdom. The last brings understanding. Yahushua already, we could say, taught everything, but in parables and in other ways with deeper and deeper levels. So he shall teach you all and remind you, that's why it says remind you, of all that I said to you. So that's why also Yahushua and Yahweh, they tell us to not worry when we're taking and when we need to speak about what we will say because the Spirit will help us and give us words at that moment. So just like Yahweh would speak through Yahushua, Yahweh will speaks through us. He shall teach you all and remind you of all that I said to you. But very important, whom the Father shall send in my name. So when you say in the name of your son Yahushua, then the Father says to the Ruach HaKodesh, all right, go to that person. So peace, shalom, I leave with you. Now this is important because he said that he did not come to bring peace. But at that moment, he was referring to physical world peace. But here, he's talking about spiritual peace. Yahushua came to help us and give us the favor of Yahweh, the forgiveness of sins, so that we may have peace with the Most High, so that the accuser cannot destroy us. But the world will continue at war. That's why he said, I came to bring division, start a fire. But Yirmiyahu prophesies of one who would bring peace, the one that people are waiting for, because they didn't expect or understand that spiritual one that Yahushua was giving us here. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. So he's saying, I'm not giving you the type of shalom, or not even that word because it doesn't work with this world peace. Um, do not let your heart be troubled, which is how the chapter started. The way this world tries to bring peace to society is through fear, by making people fear sickness. That's why a bunch of people with the mask still to this day, and they continue to say that there's another one coming and another one coming and another one coming, and one who does worse, and one that just got melted in um, the Arctic, and this and that. So people are fearful, and this country declares war to that other country, and then these other countries willing to bomb every other country, whatever. People are fearing and fearing and fearing. That's not the way Yahweh gives peace. So my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. This is so important to remember. If we are fearful, then we are not filled with the spirit of Yahweh. And I'm not saying that when you're fearful, then you are possessed or whatever like that. No, I'm just saying we need to fill ourselves with more of His Spirit so that all fear may go away. You heard that I said to you, I am going away and I am coming to you. If you did love me, you would have rejoiced that I said, I am going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. Now, if you did love me, right? Because one thing, they got sad because Yahushua was living. But if you actually loved him, then you would be happy that he was going to the Father where he wanted to be all along. right? And he's like, Don't be selfish. I mean, let me be happy, and then you can come with me, and we can all be happy together. But this flesh and that false love of this world wants to control, wants to use as an object, as a possession, to pretty much absorb everything um, that you can for your own without actually thinking about the other. So if you did love me, you would have rejoiced that I said I'm going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. All right, but even in a way, it's also saying you would rejoice because the Father is greater than I. So we are going to greater things. If I go to Him, you will be blessed as well. You heard that I said to you, I'm going away and I am coming to you. If you did love me, you would have rejoiced that I said I am going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. My Father is greater than I. So there we see, once again, Yahushua saying that there's one who's greater than him, and that is Yahweh, his Father, the only one greater than him. But he himself is talking of Yahweh in the third person, and that is important to understand. And now I have told you before it takes place. And now I have told you before it takes place that when it does take place, you shall believe. The fact that he had to go to the Father, the fact that he had to die. I shall no longer talk much with you, for the ruler of this world is coming, and he possesses none at all in me. That is interesting because I've been talking about the accuser, the accuser. The accuser had nothing against Mashiach. He had no files to present the judge. He had no evidence of breaking one commandment. So he possesses none at all in me. So who's the accuser? The ruler of this world. That is Satan. Why is Satan the ruler of this world? Not only because we sin, so we obeyed him when sinning, like when Eve ate the fruit and then Adam, he became the ruler of this world, but also because this world is a world of lies. That's why it doesn't accept the truth. So, since it is a world of lies, it had to be owned by the father of lies. I shall no longer talk much with you, for the ruler of this world is coming, and he possesses none at all in me. But in order for the world to know that I love the Father, and that as the Father commanded me, so I am doing. Rise up, let us go from here. So he's saying, so that the world knows that I love the Father, I'm willing to go and obey the Father and die for you guys. But in order for the world to know that I love the Father, and that as the Father commanded me, so I am doing, rise up, let us go from here. It was all necessary. So imagine, I mean, well, eternally he will have that um, to his credit. He was willing to suffer for all of us. He was willing to die for creation because the Father told him to do so. So, the best and greatest example, and that's why he is the way, he is the image of love.